Hey guys, I'm here to do my weekly update. Yeah, I still haven't been reading. Um, I finished one thing, which is Hot Dog Taste Test by Lisa Hannawalt. Lisa Hannawalt is she runs the podcast Baby Geniuses with Emily Heller, and I absolutely adore that podcast. I think it's super hilarious, and she's also the person who did like the art for BoJack Horseman. Like she kind of I don't she didn't create the show, but she's the person who you know those are her drawings, I guess, of BoJack and stuff. And yeah, I basically love her, and I want to own all of her books and things. I feel like this is a weird camera. Um, I didn't super love this though. I'll be 100% honest with you. I feel like I wouldn't really recommend this to people unless you're a really big fan of Lisa Hannawalt. I do think there are some pages that are absolutely beautiful, her full page spreads or whatever are absolutely amazing. Um, they're like super vibrant and colorful. And she does have kind of, I think she must have been like a food writer or something. So she's got like kind of what feels like to me like a journal of different events. So here she's with a with a chef or something at his restaurant. This is another like full page spread. And then she also has this one where she gets to go swimming with otters, which is super, super exciting. And she goes to Argentina. So that one's really exciting. This is the otters one. Here's another weird thing. But there's a bunch of like really things that I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I don't care for this at all. It's like different sketches for pitching new slogans to an advertising firm. Like, I just think that's kind of like lame. And then there's other things like connect the breakfast food with the person who wants to eat it, and like kind of like fun prompts for you the reader to do, and like you can draw on this page, and it's like I'm not 12, I don't really care about drawing on a page of your book. But so like if those parts had been taken out, then I would have loved this 100%, but I disliked those little bits so much that it kind of brought my level of enjoyment of the book down, even though I did think that some of these the stories that she has are really good. And it's just got like this weird page of like pottery. It's very strange. I gave it 3 stars. If those little bits had been taken out, I would have probably given it a 4 stars though. And then I also read one of the comics that I got at Free Comic Book Day. This is World's Greatest Cartoonists. And yeah, some of them were good, some of them were bad. I feel like this was really good because it's a bunch of short things from different comics, and so now I'm like, hey, I want to get that book. I want to get that book. I think this is like the smartest thing that John and Quarterly could have done. Or I think Fantagraphics, I guess, is the it's Fantagraphics, not John and Quarterly. My bad. But that's probably the smartest way to use Free Comic Book Day is to have each person put in a deleted scene from their book or like some kind of prequel or something from whatever book they're trying to sell, because now I'm like, hey, I want to get that book, and hey, I want to get that book. And I was reading like this first one, I just didn't enjoy very much. I thought it was kind of lazy. It was like, oh, I need to write something for Free Comic Book Day. What do I write? Like, okay, whatever. But this one I thought was so good, and like look how beautiful that art is, and it's a like beginning of my favorite thing is monsters, or my I think that's what it's called. My favorite thing is monsters. So I'm like super pumped because I didn't even know that while I was reading it, but I liked it so much. So now I'm like even more excited to hopefully get my hands on that. I have also been continuing Negroland, which is still absolutely amazing and so good. And I read another chapter on Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. And oh my gosh, this book is like making me. I mean, I have read books on how animals are treated and stuff, and like it, but there's something about like anecdotally reading it that is just like it kind of affects you a little bit more. The last chapter I read was called Hiding/Seeking, and this is the beginning of the chapter, and this little blurb here says that basically this is how much space that an average chicken gets when they're, I don't know if it's for egg-laying hens. That's how much space that they get. So it's like really sad. And this whole chapter had, a perspective of him. He goes overnight to, I think it's like a turkey farm with someone who does this quite frequently. So it's like his perspective, her perspective from doing it constantly, someone who works at a factory farm and someone who doesn't work at a factory farm, and like the whole beginning of how we started to consume animals and how things have drastically changed and stuff. Like, it was a really, really good chapter, and I'm definitely still really enjoying this. And I also read a little bit of the Parrish Review. I read an interview with Percival Everett, which was really interesting. So I haven't read anything by Percival Everett, but I definitely want to read him now. Here is a photo of him. He's written, I guess, like super different types of books and stuff. So I'm very curious. My only problem with the interview is that it's the interviewer's questions, and like I get the whole point of an interview is to get things from the interviewee as the interviewer, but having his questions in there, it was kind of like, oh, and like da da da, oh da da da, like it kind of felt really disjointed and disconnected. So I don't really know. The only other interview style thing that I've read was Underground by Haruki Murakami, and his dial, like he was basically non-existent. It was just the person speaking, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're interviewing someone about like a book that's coming out. But yeah, so that was the only like flaw in my opinion about the interview, but I'm very curious about reading Everett's books now. And then the other things that I read were poems from it, and I didn't really like them very much, so you know, whatever. So I'm still working on those, and I'm starting today Tar Baby by Toni Morrison. I'm reading this with Kathleen from Kathleen Ann, or Kathleen Ann from Kathleen Ann. I don't know. Do you go by Kathleen? I don't know. I think just Kathleen, but maybe both. And Jeremy from Jer Sings and Reads, or Reads and Sings. You know who Jeremy is. I'll link both of them below if I remember. And yeah, I'm super excited to read this. I saw Denise from Denise Arts Books Life, I feel like that's her channel name now, Denise Cooper, talk about this. This is the first Toni Morrison book that I purchased, but I have only read Beloved, so I'm very excited to read this. Can I say excited any more times? And I forgot to, let me just grab a couple of books from the pile of my dad's books here. So this, I'm just obviously just grabbing them randomly. This is Partisans and Guerras. I don't know why I can't say that word. World War II. This looks like it's a Time Life book, and it looks like just kind of like a, you know, photo essay journal, not journal, but you know, photo and essay type situation about the war, and I'm excited about that. And then this one is Dan Danziger's Travels Beyond Forbidden Frontiers by Nick Danziger. And I think this is like a travel, yeah, so it's account of his hair-raising adventures during an 18-month journey beyond forbidden frontiers in Asia. I guess he had to, he was disguised as a Muslim, and he reached, it was like in the 80s that this happened. So that sounds very interesting. The text is super tiny though. And then here is Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. I think that I already own this, but we'll see. And then I have the Penkovsky Papers. I don't know. This looks like, this is one of the most extraordinary documents in the history of espionage. Where is the author? Oleg Penkovsky. Is this translated? Yes, by Peter Daryabin. By Peter Daryabin. And then I think that this is probably translated to by M.B. Muyart Doubleday, with an introduction by Eleanor Roosevelt. Interesting. And then the last one here is On the Map by Simon Garfield. Why the World Looks the Way It Does. I feel like all these books are going to be like history or travel related mostly. There's a lot of travel books in here. But anyways, yeah, so those are a few books from my dad's collection that I took. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I have mentioned or what you're reading right now, if it's good. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.